Hello, and welcome to part 2 of my solo Oryx guide. This video will be covering the 290 Oryx solo on Warlock. I do recommend starting off on the Warlock solo even if you aren't too familiar with the jump or the lack of Twilight Garrison. The Warlock solo is significantly easier than either the Titan or Hunter solo, and I do not know anybody who has done their first Oryx solo on a character that is not a Warlock. At any rate, what we're doing right now is waiting for thralls to spawn and gather at our feet. Once they do that, we will throw a fusion grenade, and that will blow them all up. If all the thralls die at once, then they are more likely to spawn ammo. It takes approximately 12 sniper shots per round, and an additional 12 to 18 to kill the shade, depending on how well you can hit your shots. So generating ammo in this first part is rather important. You can see here I throw a fusion grenade and jump up, and I seem to have a couple special bricks there, so I continue with the run. If you don't have enough ammo, then just jump off and wipe. I try to kill the knights fairly quickly. Oryx's enrage timer begins the moment his health bar appears, so if you leave the knights up longer, then you will have less amount of time to damage Oryx before he enrages. At any rate, at this point I jump up onto this daughter's plate, and I begin shooting the ogres. The fundamental strategy here is to weaken every ogre, and then stagger Oryx. After this, you will kill 2 of the ogres, and then drag the other 2 ogres over those bombs and kill them there. Once you have 3 to 4 bombs lined up, you can just step in them and detonate them. This will do damage to Oryx, and it will also kill you, however, you are a self-res Warlock, and Oryx is not. So at this point, in the footage, you can see I'm jumping down to below plate 1, I am taking a little bit of damage here, so I'm sure not to be too aggressive with the ogres. But what I did right there is jump up a little bit to bait the ogres. This drags them towards the front of the map, but more on that later. For now, I turn around and stagger Oryx by shooting him in the chest. Make sure that your Touch of Malice is on the last shot for that, by the way. I then jump up again to try and bait the ogres forwards, and then I jump up onto plate 1, and from there onto one of the daughter's plates. Once up here, I'm going to kill the back 2 ogres, fall down, and shoot at the ground a bit. This will attract the front 2 ogres towards me. I will then kill the front 2 ogres on top of where the other bombs are, and this lines up 4 bombs for me. I step inside, and detonate the bombs, and then I run forwards and shoot Oryx in the chest a little bit. The more damage you get on his chest, the longer he is receptive to damage from the bombs, so do make sure to shoot him at least a bit. At this point you will die and self-res, and make sure to check to see how many bombs of damage you got. In this clip here I got 4 bombs, so I continue this run. Typically on round 1, if you do not get 4 bombs of damage, you might as well wipe, especially early on, because round 1 is the easiest round, and if you can't get 4 bombs consistently on round 1, it's not usually worth running. For the mortar section, you'll want to run around on the daughter's plates and tag each knight at least once with Touch of Malice. When the knights despawn, they don't actually despawn, they die, and if you tagged them, then it counts as a kill for you. This is actually fairly important, because as you'll see here, I get super energy when the knights die. Super is rather tight in this fight if you aren't running a Shine On helmet, and even if you are running a Shine On helmet, if you're not killing the knights, it is still entirely possible for you not to get your super before you need it next. Right now I'm shooting the front of the map to try and move the vessel there. On the first round, you always detonate on the back side of the map. However, for consecutive rounds, you will detonate whichever side the vessel was on right before you stagger Oryx. The reason to shoot the front of the map is because Oryx is not at the front of the map. So if I can get the vessel to be in the front, then I can detonate on the side where Oryx isn't, and that's a lot safer. But why do we do it this way? Wherever the vessel is before stagger, he will always move to the opposite side during or after stagger. So after you've damaged the 4th ogre, always take a look to see where the vessel is, and that is the side that you will be detonating on. You can see here the vessel is in the back of the map, which means I will have to detonate in the back of the map. This is slightly riskier because it is where Oryx is. However, on 290, Oryx doesn't do that much damage to you, so it's not terrible. The rest of this phase, however, is more or less the same as phase 1. You see I jump up a little bit to bait the ogres to the front, and then I hop on the plate and jump up to the daughters. This time, however, I look at the side I was just on and kill those ogres first. You see that one took a moment to die because I accidentally enraged it. However, the front two ogres enrage fairly easily, which is nice, so I run back and kill them with grenades and touch. In this clip, I only go for 3 bombs, even though I might have been able to get all 4. If you are unsure whether you can commit to 4 bombs, don't bother going for it typically, because if you think you can get a bomb and then don't see it appear in the feed, you might stay too long and not realize it's not detonating because you aren't in it. Things just tend to go wrong if you aren't sure of what you're doing, so it is just generally much safer to go for 3 bombs if you are sure that you can get them. At any rate, 4 bombs plus 3 bombs is 7 bombs. That means Oryx is now at 9 bombs of health, which means I have to do another phase of mortars. However, for the purpose of our explanation, let's skip ahead to a shade phase. Whenever Oryx is at or below half health, he will do shade instead of mortars, so in this clip you can see he is below half health, thus he is about to begin shade. I jump up to the daughter's plates, because when he spawns the knights, I like to tag the knights, same as mortars. I'm not entirely sure if this does anything, but if it has a chance of giving me extra super energy, I like to anyways. When you spawn in shade, the shade will be 90 degrees to your left, so look in that direction and get some shots off on it. You can read the shade's teleports similar to Axis, actually. He leaves a trail behind him in whichever direction he goes. When the shade goes to slam, just jump over his head. That will make him slam quicker. 3 kills with Touch of Malice will regenerate your health. This is very powerful because in the shade you do not naturally regenerate health. Thralls will be spawning continuously throughout this phase, so you always have some form of health regeneration available to you. To deal with the shade himself, I typically throw 2 grenades and then continue throwing them whenever I get them. Your sniper, however, is the best weapon to use to kill the shade. While you're shooting your sniper, however, make sure that you are constantly moving to one side. You'll notice in these clips that I'm actually moving to either the left or right as I shoot the shade. The reason for this is that thralls will follow you wherever you're walking, and if you are just standing still, they will walk up to you and punch you and do damage to you. However, if you are constantly moving, then they have a harder time getting to you, and you can actually train them all behind you, so you don't have thralls on one side or you don't have thralls on the other side, and this makes them easier to deal with. That aside, if you can deal with the shade and get 16 bombs off on Oryx, then the only part left is Final Stand. For Final Stand, first you want to make sure that Oryx is indeed at 0 bombs of health. If you walk up to the front and he has a bomb left and you are standing where the shade spawns, you will die. If, however, he is at 0 bombs of health, run to the front of the map where I am. The sides of this platform are generally safe from the vessel. Empty your Touch of Malice to 1 shot and shoot him in the chest. Congratulations, you've just killed Oryx, although the mission complete doesn't appear for another 6 or 7 seconds. In this clip I actually jump off the map to save the checkpoint, however if you want the tag, I don't suggest doing that. So that's the strategy, but there is one more thing I want to cover, and it is this little segment right here. So, the elevator music might sound a little overdramatic, but you are going to be spending a lot of time on these 60 seconds right here. That is the part between jumping down after weakening the ogres and staggering, and then collecting the ogres onto one spot and detonating those bombs. This is by far the hardest part of the Oryx solo, and it is also like the heart of the Oryx solo. If there's one thing you're trying to learn here, it is how to properly control the ogres and read the vessel in this section. So let's spend a little bit of time analyzing what we do here. As you fall down to plate 1 to stagger Oryx, you need to be doing 2 things. First, you check to see where the vessel is. If the vessel is not on your side, that's great, that means you detonate on the opposite side. The other thing, however, you just saw me do. I jump a little bit to bait the ogres. But what does that sentence mean exactly, bait the ogres? Take a look at this clip here. The ogres are currently moving left, away from the middle of the map. However, if we let them do this, then they will be much harder to enrage and won't cooperate nearly as easily when we need to drag them to the opposite side. To combat this, we do the motion that you see here. First, jump and then move to the left behind cover. This will cause the ogres to think that in order to see you better, they should move to the right. And this will keep them closer to the middle of the map. In addition, if the vessel is on the same side as you during stagger, sometimes he will try and walk up to you to punch you. However, if the vessel can see you and thinks that he can shoot you, that won't happen, because he will be shooting you instead of trying to punch you. After you stagger, you're going to do a similar motion. You're going to jump up so that the ogres can see you. However, you're currently on a time limit. You only have about 40 seconds after stagger to detonate the bombs. So you don't spend a lot of time, just go for 1 or 2 jumps, and try and catch line of sight with both of the ogres. After this, jump onto plate 1, and then jump up to the daughter's plates and kill both of the ogres on the side that you will be detonating on. And now for the part that people like to get very triggered over. Pay very close attention. After you kill the first 2 ogres, fall down, and as you're falling, shoot the ground. This will enrage the other 2 ogres, and they'll walk towards you. If they don't enrage immediately, then wait a moment and shoot again, and look between them. Don't spam shots though, that doesn't generally seem to work. Just stand there and look, and shoot a couple shots, and wait a moment and shoot a couple more shots, and eventually they will enrage and follow you, and you can back up, drag them over the other 2 bombs, and kill them there. Then just detonate the bombs, die, and self-res, and you should have gotten between 2 and 4 bombs of damage. That is, for the most part, how to solo 290 Oryx on a Warlock. This challenge can take anywhere between 13 and 72 hours of practice before it is completed, so be patient, put in the time, and especially study how other people do Oryx solos. I have my way, and that's what works for me. But in the description I will have links to a couple of other videos where you can see how other people do it. And that's all for now though, thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions, please comment them, I'll be sure to reply.